This is rental car number 96. It's a super hot day in June. It's over 100 degrees today, and I'm driving the 2018 Ford Edge Titanium with all-wheel drive. Except there's a little bit more to this car because it also has the technology package. That means we get a three-pronged power port in the back seat. We also have the panoramic Vista roof, which is great even on a hot day like today. And we also have the 19-inch luster nickel painted aluminum wheels. So I'll put that all together, and this Edge Titanium retails for about $40,000. Alright, so now that we know what we're driving and approximately how much it costs, let's start out by popping the hood and taking a look at what's underneath. So first off, you get hydraulics to keep the hood open. That's really nice because you don't have to fish around for that little metal stick in the engine cavity at all. The hood just stays open all on its own. Also, as I mentioned before, this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, and you get a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with a 6-speed, and I'm going to use Ford's marketing terms just for a second, selectshift automatic transmission. Selectshift just means that you do have sport shift capability. You can use the paddles up by the steering wheel to shift the gears manually if you want to. With all that, you get an impressive 245 horsepower and some decent gas mileage. 20 miles per gallon in the city, 27 on the highway with an 18.5 gallon fuel tank. That fuel cap is eliminated. You get Ford's capless technology, which I'm a big fan of, and the fuel cap is located on the driver's side of the vehicle. Alright, but enough with the stats and specifications. What's it really like to drive the Edge Titanium? And I gotta say, it's pretty fun. Let me throw a couple more numbers out at you. First off, 0 to 60 time is about 7.6 seconds, at least according to Car and Driver. I felt like that's a little slow. I actually had fun accelerating in the Edge. I felt like it was pretty peppy, and I enjoyed, pulling off on an abandoned way station like this and just gunning it, seeing how fast the car can go. Handling-wise, it goes around the turns great. You got nice beefy tires, so I don't feel like I'm slipping it at all, and I kind of feel like I could hit the accelerator just a little bit harder and really push it through the corners, which is nice to have in an SUV. Your top track speed, if you're curious, is 122 miles per hour. I got nowhere near that. I don't have any video anywhere near that. I'm a careful driver. I like to drive like a grandma, so I avoid those speeding tickets. Lastly, and I think most importantly, cabin noise is decent. I could listen to my podcast with the volume at about 40%, which is good enough for me. Didn't feel like I was blowing out my eardrums or anything like that. Just to give you a quick taste, here's what it sounds like with nothing on in the vehicle while you're driving at about 75 miles per hour. Alright, so that's my quick take on performance. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I don't really care much about performance as long as the car is fun to drive and relatively comfortable. What I really care about is the interior of the vehicle. So let's jump inside the Ford Edge and take a look at what kind of amenities you're going to get a chance to enjoy while you drive this car. Alright, let's start off with something a little bit boring, and that's the driver's seat itself. It is adjustable in a number of different ways, including lumbar support. All the adjustments can be made electronically, including the steering wheel, which you can adjust electronically. Also, the seatbelt itself is adjustable. This is pretty common on most new vehicles, but I want to point it out because if you do play around with this setting a little bit, it can make the car that much more comfortable for you. And here's the key fob. It's got a great weight to it. It's made out of really nice materials. Lock, unlock, trunk release, remote start capability, and a panic button. On the back, nothing but the Ford logo. And because you do have a key fob, that means you get a push button start. It's located to the right of the steering wheel, right on the dash, and it's a nice circular button that illuminates with a green LED when the car is on. Alright, now that we got the car on, let's take a look at the steering wheel. You get lots of buttons on the Ford setup, and that's because you actually have 2 digital screens in the gauge cluster that you can navigate. So the buttons on the left and the right hand side, these arrow keys, those allow you to manipulate the digital screens and change them. On the left hand side below those, you have your cruise controls. Then on the right hand side, you have the buttons to control your phone and the volume rockers, along with your sport shift paddles. Those are located on both sides, right behind the steering wheel, to help you adjust the gears if you want to use that capability. And then, as I mentioned before, up above, you have a really nice gauge cluster with 2 really nice sized digital screens that give you tons of information about the vehicle. So that's the gauge cluster and the steering wheel setup. Let's shift our gaze over to the door, over to the left a little bit to check out the buttons over here. Right here you have your window controls and your mirror controls. Up above are your door locks. The 1, 2, 3 are the buttons to control the memory seat function. And then up on the dash you have the controls for the headlights, along with a trunk release and some other buttons to adjust the intensity of the lights in the gauge cluster. So since we're on this side of the vehicle, let's take a really quick look at the side view mirrors. Now, blindside detection is available on the Edge for an extra cost, but we don't have it on this vehicle. Instead, Ford has given us a slight cutout in the left-hand corner of the mirror to give us a wide-angle view of our surroundings. This took me about 10 to 15 minutes to get used to, but after that amount of time, I actually liked it quite a bit. It works really well. And then one more quick thing I want to mention about the side view mirrors is that in the back of the casing for the mirror, there's also an additional turn signal indicator located right here. Alright, but enough about side view mirrors. Let's jump back into the vehicle and look upwards so I can show you some of the other controls that are available on the Edge. First off, you get a very nice sunglass holder. It's lined in felt, so it should protect those super expensive Ray-Bans that you own. There's also controls to operate the lights to illuminate the interior of the cabin. Those seem to work pretty well. You also get a standard rear view mirror. I really like this because there's no buttons of any kind located on the mirror. Nothing to distract you when you're trying to see what's behind the vehicle. I like that a lot. And I also like the controls right here that operate the Panoramic Vista roof. And that's just Ford's marketing terminology. Essentially what it means is that you get a nice big moon roof on the Edge. This thing really does cover almost the entire roof of the cabin, and it opens up at a pretty good clip. You also have a large section in the front that opens up to allow some airflow. And then up top on the roof itself, you get this little lip that comes up automatically as well. This controls the airflow and reduces noise while you're driving at high speeds. And it really does work well. And all in all, I gotta say, this moonroof turns what I would consider to be a pretty above average SUV into something, well, pretty spectacular. Alright, so if you shift your gaze down just a little bit, on top of the dash you'll find an additional storage cutout that I found really convenient. I found myself storing my cell phone, my toll pass, my wallet, all kinds of things in here, just because the location is so nice. Anyway, I just want to point that out real quick to you. The exciting stuff is below there, and that's where you'll find the touchscreen for the vehicle. This is a little small in my opinion. Here's my cell phone. I'm going to hold it up to the screen, and you'll see it almost covers the whole thing. But even though it's a smaller size, it really is great. Ford has done a great job organizing all their menu structures and making it real intuitive just to jump through everything to find what you need within a couple of clicks at most. And it really does have everything you need. The rear view camera is great, gives you a nice wide open view from behind the vehicle, and navigation is really easy to operate. I think it's because the screen has such nice colors that it's really easy to see where you are on the map and figure things out pretty quickly. And then below the touchscreen are your climate controls. I like the way these look. It's got a real nice modern feel to it, but they're not great to use because most of the actual climate controls are embedded in the touchscreen above. And even though it's organized in a really nice way, it still takes a couple of clicks to change what I would consider to be some pretty basic things. So once you do get the car set at a comfortable temperature, it's fine, but if you got to adjust things on the fly, it's not great. It's not my favorite, at least. But thankfully you do have heated and ventilated seats on this car. So that means you can heat up the seats and you can have cold air sort of lightly blown into your lower back, which, considering it was 105 today, was pretty phenomenal. I gotta say, it works really well. Alright, but I feel like I've been talking about climate controls for way too long, so let's move on. Below the climate controls, there is a nice storage area. Fits my cell phone fine, which is great. And it also includes 2 USB ports, which I think is great because these are located in a very, very convenient spot. Behind that storage area, you'll find the gear shift. It's wrapped in a really nice soft leather. I think it looks pretty attractive. Also works great. Shifts through the gears really smoothly. To the left of that, you'll find the parking brake. It's in the form of an electronic parking brake. I know not everyone's a fan of this, but it kind of fits with the techie kind of vibe that the Edge is throwing off, and it works fine. Once you get used to it, it's really second nature. Behind there, you get 2 cup holders. You'll notice I'm drinking a lot today since it's so hot. Got my LaCroix sparkling water and some black tea. And then behind there, you have a center armrest that actually has 2 separate storage areas. So when you open up the compartment, you have 2 buttons you can press. If you press the first button, it opens up to reveal a shelf that's lined in felt, pretty much perfect to keep some change and stuff like that. If you press the second button, that shelf system gets sort of sucked in the lid of the storage area, and it reveals a larger storage area underneath, pretty much standard that you see on most vehicles. And then it's nice to see that down here you also get a 12-volt power port, although you will need an adapter in order to use this one. Alright, so let's keep talking about storage by looking at the glove box. This is a decent size, opens and closes without any problems, so I guess I'm a fan. I really honestly don't know what to say about glove boxes, except that this one is not annoying and appears to have enough storage space to keep all your odds and ends. So 2 thumbs up there. Lastly, before we move on to the back seat, I want to point out that there's also an additional 12-volt power port for your front seat passenger. It's located down here kind of by their knees, and it's nice to see that this is included. It's a nice touch, and it could come in handy. Alright, so that's pretty much all the major highlights of the front seat. Let's shift our gears by looking in the back seat and see what kind of amenities your passengers are going to get to enjoy. First and foremost, legroom is great back here. I'm 6 feet tall, that driver's seat is pushed back a good ways, and I still have about 6 inches of room between my knees and the back of that front seat. That's pretty phenomenal. Also, I mentioned this before, but you have a number of ports back here. What you're looking at right now is the back of the center armrest for the front seat passengers. You have 2 dedicated vents right here. You also have 2 controls to control the heated seats for your passengers. How cool is that? And then down below towards the floor you have 2 ports. This is a traditional 12-volt power port that requires an adapter. And then my favorite, a 3-pronged power port that you can use to plug in just about anything back here. I really think this is phenomenal, and I hope to see it on a lot more vehicles. And a couple more things about the seats back here. First off, you do get a center armrest that folds down pretty easily. It's made out of nice soft leather and includes 2 cup holders, so that's good to see. There's also some pockets built in on the back of the front seats. These are made out of nice leather, and although I'm not a huge fan of them, I guess they could be useful. One thing I am a huge fan of is the car seat anchors back here. They're built in really shallow, so it should be really easy to install a car seat. Honestly, they're so shallow that you don't even have to manipulate the fabric to get access to them. They're just right there for you to clip in that car seat, which I think is phenomenal. Alright, so that's pretty much everything, at least the major highlights of the back seat. Let's close things out by opening up the hatch and taking a look at the storage space on this SUV. One thing I really like is that there's no third row seat on the edge, so all this space is going to be available 100% of the time. And it's a nice big rectangular shape that I think you can use to just get a ton of stuff back here. Also, if you lift up the floor, you'll see that there's a spare tire kind of hidden underneath here, along with some modular storage space that I think you can use really well to store a bunch of odds and ends, maybe some tools and some other things down here. Another thing I like back here are these electronic controls built into the left-hand side. You do get a 12-volt power port right here that will need an adapter. And these controls right here actually operate the back seats. You just touch on it and it drops the seat pretty quickly. Let me quickly show you that again. Honestly, you just touch the control and then the back seat falls down. Honestly, it might be even too quick for my taste. That looks a little unsafe, but hey, whatever. It quickly converts the space into a much larger storage area so you can take advantage of all the square footage of this vehicle if you need to haul something even bigger. And it is worth noting that you can fold these seats down manually. There's some controls back here that you just pull on, plastic levers essentially, and the seats will fold down for you that way as well. Alright, so that's pretty much all the major highlights of the hatch. I think you'll agree this is a pretty useful space. I liked it quite a bit. Anyway, that's pretty much everything end to end on the 2018 Ford Edge. Honestly, I like this vehicle quite a bit. I had it for 2 days, put about 150 miles on it, mostly highway miles, but I had a good time. So lately I've been ending my videos by giving a yes or no recommendation for the vehicle. But my friend Amtrak left a comment saying that he wants me to bring back the star ratings. So I'm going to do that today. So for this one, for the 2018 Ford Edge Titanium, I'm going to give it 5 stars. Look, I can't find anything majorly wrong with this vehicle. It's got some great tech features. That sunroof is just phenomenal. And it's got some really useful cargo space that I'm a little bit jealous of. Anyway, that's my take on this vehicle. If you disagree, honestly, I'd love to hear from you, even if you're critical about the way I'm making my videos. Please leave me a comment below. I'd love to chat a little bit. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you join me next time when I review my 97th rental car. I hope to see you then.